to exact time that it's going to do a splashdown, and also the exact location as well. You know, what I find so interesting too, Ariel, is Butch and Sunny, they say they never felt stuck or stranded while on ISS for 9 months.
No, they didn't. You know, they were so optimistic. And when I heard them both talking in a press conference, basically saying that this is what you do. You know, that sometimes the missions are shorter, sometimes they're longer. But if you've seen any video of them, they are smiling. They have really been making the best of this situation. But I just have to think, you know, imagine. Think you're going to be up there for a week. You're going on vacation for a week. Not that they're on vacation, but if, you know, you and I are going to be on vacation for a week, and then suddenly, oh, sorry, we can't get you home for, you know, for 9 months. And of course, they both mentioned that it's tougher on their families because they, you know, they don't know per se when they're coming home. You've got Butch has a wife and 2 daughters. His youngest daughter is a senior in high school, so he you know, missed most of her senior year. And Sunny has a husband and 2 Labradors that she can't wait to get home to. So for the folks on the ground, that's really the challenge. But this has not been, you know, we talk about 9 months. That sounds like a long time to you and me. But the longest single space flight by a U.S. astronaut was Frank Rubio, and that was 371 days. That was certainly a marathon mission on board the ISS, and that was from 2022 to 2023. You know, and as I mentioned, that's really for the family on the ground. That's more so the hardest part. Last week, Will Moore said he's looking forward to seeing his family, ministering in his church, smelling some fresh cut grass. I'm sure some food as well. And William's looking forward to seeing her family, her dogs, and swimming in the ocean. But again, they've been so optimistic and positive through this process. I think it's really surprised a lot of people. And there you see the ships coming in for that rescue. Yeah, I love those things we take for granted, the fresh cut grass and swimming in the ocean. Those are all things I can't wait to see. Also, I do need to add that Sunny set a new record for women with the most career spacewalking hours and now holds 9 spacewalks. Real quick, Ariel, what is next for Butch and Sunny? So they're going to fly back to Johnson Space Center in Houston, and they are going to be there for a little while. They're not going to be able to drive. As they acclimate, they're going to be with a flight surgeon general and just getting used to, you know, like you would when you come back to Earth from the plane. Imagine being up there for 9 months. It's going to take some time. Yeah, I wish we could hear the cheers inside that capsule as that boat is approaching. Fascinating. Ariel, thanks so much. And thank you at home for watching. I'm Sharon Tazwell. More news now on Spectrum News. New tensions and uncertainty in the Middle East after Israeli strikes right to the Gaza Strip early Tuesday, and the death toll continues to rise. The attack shattering a fragile ceasefire agreement with Hamas. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Israel carried out what it described as extensive strikes on Hamas targets, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his country this is only the beginning. Our national reporter Evan Kozloff is in Washington with the latest, plus how the White House is responding.
Early Tuesday morning, the sound of airstrikes in the Gaza Strip as war returned after a nearly 60-day pause. The Hamas-run health ministry saying at least 404 people were killed and 560 were injured.
I woke up to the sounds of explosions and fire.
There was no prior warning. It all happened unexpectedly.
The surprise strikes now threatening to reignite the 17-month war, which began when Hamas terrorists killed over 1,000 Israelis on October 7th, 2023. The two sides agreed to a ceasefire back in January, which began with a 6-week pause in fighting. But since that first phase ended 2 weeks ago, Israel and Hamas have been at an impasse.
We have reached this situation after the Hamas repeatedly refused proposal to extend ceasefire and to release our hostages.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying on Tuesday that these attacks are, quote, only the beginning, calling it a necessary condition for freeing the hostages. But Hamas has accused Netanyahu of violating the ceasefire, threatening that this could leave the remaining Israeli hostages to a, quote, unknown fate. The airstrikes triggering protests within Israel including by some families of hostages who fear that a return of fighting could put their loved ones at risk.
The government of Israel has decided overnight the fate of the hostages will be like the fate of Hamas.
We are horrified.
The United Nations Human Rights Office condemning this new fighting.
There is no military path out of this crisis. This nightmare must end immediately.
Evan Kozlov joins us from Washington. Evan, the Trump administration is suffering another legal setback Tuesday. A federal judge has blocked the dismantling of USAID. What can you tell us about that?
Right, it definitely seems like we get a new lawsuit every day, but this one is big. A federal judge in Maryland said that the dismantling of the U.S. Agency for International Development was likely unconstitutional. The judge ordering the Trump administration to restore computer access and email for all employees at USAID, including those who were put on administrative leave. This all centers on the role played by billionaire Elon Musk, who's been leading President Trump's cost-cutting office known as DOGE. The lawsuit argued that it's unlawful for an unelected person, Musk, to have the power to essentially dismantle an agency. And ultimately, the judge agreed with this, saying that Musk has, quote, firm control over DOGE. In the end, the judge indefinitely blocked Elon Musk and DOGE from making any further cuts to this agency. USAID has been one of the biggest targets of cuts, with the Trump administration notifying at least 1,600 staffers that were being fired last month. So, Sharon, the White House says they do plan to appeal this bombshell ruling.
All right, Evan Kozlov in Washington. Thanks.
Thank you.
During a phone call with President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin agrees to a limited 30-day ceasefire that would halt all attacks on energy infrastructure in Ukraine. But the agreement falls short of the broad ceasefire that the U.S. and Ukraine both sought. Our national political reporter, Taylor Popolaris, has more details from the call.
The call between Presidents Trump and Putin started at 10 a.m. Eastern Time Tuesday and lasted until around noon. The White House released a lengthy readout afterward that said the leaders agreed that the movement to peace will begin with an energy and infrastructure ceasefire, as well as technical negotiations on implementation of a maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea, full ceasefire, and permanent peace. These negotiations will begin immediately in the Middle East. President Trump posted his own statement shortly after, calling his conversation with Putin very good and productive, and saying they agreed to an immediate ceasefire on all energy and infrastructure while pledging to work quickly for a complete ceasefire. Ukrainian officials met with U.S. leadership in Saudi Arabia last week and said they would accept a broad 30-day ceasefire with Russia, but the deal announced by the U.S. and Russia Tuesday appeared to be more limited. The Kremlin said Trump put forward a proposal for the parties to the conflict to mutually refrain from attacks on energy infrastructure facilities for 30 days. Vladimir Putin responded positively to this initiative and immediately gave the Russian military the corresponding order. Russia invaded Ukraine more than 3 years ago. Trump has expressed great frustration with Ukraine's president for insisting on U.S. security guarantees while speaking more warmly about Putin. Former Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, a staunch supporter of Ukraine, said Tuesday that a deal should not be forced on the country.
The Ukrainians have to win. And they have to decide, not us, what they're comfortable with.
President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff met with President Putin in Russia last week. It's unclear who will travel to the Middle East for these continued negotiations. Reporting at the White House, Taylor Popolars, Spectrum News.
The president and Secret Service protection for Hunter and Ashley Biden. Plus, is the Statue of Liberty at risk of leaving New York? We're breaking down all the political buzz just ahead.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
I really am in the middle of nowhere. Every day is different. Chores, come on, homeschooling. and then I fit in the rug business. I just got a new batch of rugs that I'd love to show you. I have a website, and a lot of what I do is sharing my home life. Mommy's leaving. Reliable, high-speed internet is the foundation of our business. Spectrum was great. They went out of their way to make sure that I was okay and I was taken care of. Shoo! And that's the awesomeness of having Spectrum.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassette with your weather on the ones. The big picture across the country. Another strong low pressure system is about to move off the Rockies, bringing big winds for the plains from Texas up into Iowa, with a blizzard expected for northern Kansas to the northeast. So we will see the snow coming down by Wednesday morning. Heavy snow with 50 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts, whiteout conditions through Omaha up to Iowa and into southeastern Minnesota. This will be a very impactful system. Driving will not be possible here across this region where you see those warnings, and you see why. We have a strong low pressure system here moving over Kansas, picking it up Wednesday morning, snow coming down. There may not be a ton of snow for parts of Kansas, northeast Kansas, temperatures too warm, snow rates too low, but still to farther north, that is where we'll have the heaviest snowfall. While we will have rain initially, it will change over to snow, so storms possible. Chicago stretching to the south, that front, but on the northern side of this, that big snow coming down in Wisconsin and down into Iowa, with storms leading with that cold front. Now, snow total wise, biggest snow is going to be into the Mountain West, but we also have some pockets of 6 to 8 inches of snowfall from Green Bay down into Omaha. So this is going to lead to some decent snow out of this here in March. But ahead of it, there is that severe threat down into the deep south, but a level 2 threat will be focused from Peoria and much of Illinois to western Indiana, where the winds are going to be the most likely threat, but can't rule out a few isolated tornadoes. The other element of the system is the winds. We will have 40 to 50, even 60 mile per hour wind gusts around that low pressure system down in Texas. Very windy and dry, so that fire danger does continue. See where those active wildfires are at right now. The winds will continue into Wednesday before finally starting to level off. Coming up, we're going to talk about this cold air and the big changes we have to end the week with your weather on the ones.
Here's what you need to know. Israel launched deadly airstrikes across Gaza after Hamas refused its demands to change the ceasefire agreement. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the strikes that killed hundreds are only the beginning. And the Health and Human Services Department removed a gun violence advisory from its website. Former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy declared gun violence a public health crisis last year. And the measles outbreak in Texas continues to grow, with now 279 confirmed cases. Almost all cases are in those unvaccinated or their vaccination status is unknown. And that's what you need to know. A successful splashdown 9 months in the making. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams returned from the International Space Station Tuesday, along with 2 other astronauts. The SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule hit the water off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
Copy, splashdown. We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Sonny, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
Spectrum's Ariel Wessler joins me now. Ariel, we watched it all happen live. Absolutely amazing thing to watch. Can you explain what we saw this evening and break down how we got here?
Yeah, so it was really incredible. You heard those cheers. That is just so many months in the making, so many people involved in bringing them home safely. What's remarkable to me are the physics of this. The Dragon Freedom spacecraft hitting the atmosphere, traveling more than 22 times the speed of sound, heating up to more than 3,500 degrees. And the spacecraft deploys two sets of parachutes in quick succession that we saw to kind of slow down those astronauts, slow down the capsule before they hit the water. All went as planned. The capsule decelerated to less than 20 miles an hour as it hit the water. There you see one of those, two of those parachutes, I believe. And then we had rescuers coming to get them out of the water. But that's where you see those parachutes being deployed. And they're going to have to, adjust to gravity. That's going to take some time and take their first breath of Earth air, but I have no doubt that they are happy to be back.
Ariel, it never gets old watching that video. So what is next now for astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore?
Yeah, so they're going to be flown to the Johnson Space Center, and I had talked to a retired astronaut who said, it can take up to 2 months to really get back to normal. They're going to meet with a flight surgeon to quarantine for a little bit. I mean, if you imagine what it's like being on a plane and then, for a few hours, then coming down, it has to do with your ear and your balance. That these astronauts are going to feel a little wobbly. They're not, allowed to drive for a week or so until they adjust. This retired astronaut had told me that she was up in space for a week and said you feel very heavy. Even lifting your arms can be a difficult task. And so they increase their exercise routine prior to returning to Earth, but your muscles are still weak, your bones are weak, and it's just a real arduous process on your body until you get back to normal. But no doubt they are thrilled to be home.
Thrilled to have them back home, and the stories they must be able to tell. Ariel Wessler in El Segundo, California. Thanks.
Thank you.
Chief Justice John Roberts issues an extraordinary statement pushing back against President Donald Trump's call to impeach a federal judge. Our Daniel Grimes reports from Washington on the escalating tensions between the president and the judiciary.
The short statement Chief Justice John Roberts issued Tuesday did not mention President Donald Trump by name, but it was clearly aimed at him. The Chief Justice wrote, quote, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision." He added, "The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose." The rare statement by the nation's top judge followed a social media post by the president attacking U.S. District Judge James Boasberg for his ruling blocking the Trump administration's deportation of alleged Venezuelan gang members. The president called Boasberg a, quote, "radical left lunatic of a judge, a troublemaker and agitator who should be impeached."
If you start impeaching judges because they disagree with their rulings, that is the death of judicial independence in this country. And Trump has had a practice and a pattern of trying to delegitimize the judiciary when he loses cases.
The Trump administration carried out those deportation flights by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Over the weekend, the judge ordered the 2 planes carrying the alleged gang members to return while he considered whether the removal was lawful, but the planes kept going to their destination in El Salvador. The Department of Justice argues the order was not enforceable because it was issued orally and because the plane was in international airspace at the time. The Chief Justice last pushed back against the president in 2018 when he defended the independence of the judiciary after President Trump called a judge who had ruled against his administration's asylum policy an Obama judge. Ironically, it was Justice Roberts who wrote the controversial majority opinion last year giving presidents broad immunity from criminal prosecution, a decision that has been seen as benefiting Trump. But Roberts has also defended judicial independence.
And it is important for democracy and constitutionalism to follow the judiciary. So if the president stops doing that, then essentially we have a dictatorship.
Now, despite the pushback from the top of the judicial branch, a Republican member of Congress posted on social media that he introduced articles of impeachment against Boasberg, though it is unlikely to happen. In Washington, Daniel Grimes, Spectrum News.
U.S. home prices at an all-time low. Just ahead on Spectrum News, the latest on the shifting costs in real estate. And as we hit the break, here's your closing numbers on Wall Street with all 3 major stock indexes ending on a low.
For the millions of school-aged children across the country, the state of their schools can have a lasting impact on their health and well-being.
The majority of school districts aren't doing comprehensive regular water quality testing.
As CO2 levels rise in a space, cognitive function takes a direct decline.
We visit 2 school districts working to create safe and healthy environments for their students.
Watch Exploring Your Health, Curing Our Classrooms. Available on the Spectrum News app.
Starting a business is hard. You have to stay connected at all times.
As we've been growing the studio, Spectrum's been there every step of the way. I'm always able to make the phone call that I need. I'm able to shoot that text message or that email. Every vital piece of equipment that we have here uses Spectrum.
Fast, reliable internet, starting at $40 a month, backed by the Spectrum commitment to keep your business connected.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/act now.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassett with your weather on the ones. This system that is bringing that snow across the plains and wind will be dropping temperatures. So look at this delineation tomorrow. We'll be in the 70s in St. Louis to 40s in Wichita, 39 degrees in Minneapolis, 64 degrees in Chicago. These temperatures are about to drop across the east with the strength of this low pressure system in the front. That warm air it's pulling up from the south will be traded away for that cold wind that will carry into the east we head towards the end of the week. So we've been loving the mild weather in the east. It is going to be a bit cooler as we get to the end of the week and heading on into the weekend. But overall, though, we have been running well above average. I mean, temperatures 20 degrees above average in the northeast to the Ohio Valley. This will end with Wednesday to Thursday. There, those temperatures dropping back to well below average in Nashville into Atlanta. So a pattern flip is going to be expected here with this strength of the front. Temperatures dropping in Kansas City. I should mention we had near record temperatures in Kansas City for the start of the week, but we're going to drop back into the 60s for Wednesday, and that'll be initially into the 30s into the afternoon, and then by Thursday the high of only 56 degrees. Places like Atlanta falling to nearly 80 degrees Wednesday to 64 degrees by Friday. So cool. Average weather will be making a return after this spell of some warmth that we've had here as of late. This system will be carrying northeastward. We do have again that threat of severe weather for parts of Illinois into Indiana down in the deep south, but more isolated in nature. It doesn't quite have the same energy as our last front, but it will still bring some rain for the northeast here as we get into Thursday afternoon, with heavier rain possible in New York by Thursday night, with some upslope snow into the mountains of the Appalachians. So this will come through, and it does appear that we'll be in a little bit of a higher pattern as we get into the weekend. I'll look at a few places across the country. LA, beautiful weather, 70s and 60s here for the next few days. But Kansas City, we will have that rain and snow expected Wednesday. 63 again, the high in the morning, but then dropping throughout the day, falling to the 50s for highs on Thursday. New York, we're going to go from 60s on Wednesday and then dropping into the 40s by Friday. As we look ahead to what to expect towards the end of March, cooler than average weather appears more likely in the east, with the abnormal warmth expected off into the west, with this active pattern expected to continue.
As millions continue to recover from deadly severe weather that swept the U.S., a Georgia driver caught the moments they narrowly escaped a bolt of lightning. Wow. Well, the near hit happened Saturday on a highway in Atlanta. You can see the lightning strike the side of the road just in front of the driver. Debris can then be heard hitting the front of the car. Powerful storm systems swept through the Midwest and the South over the weekend, unleashing tornadoes, uprooting trees, and damaging homes, killing more than 40 people. Check out this dash cam video. It shows a moment a 500-gallon propane tank, look at that, exploded during a fire in northeast Nebraska. Well, fire and rescue crews were on scene to extinguish the initial fire, but decided to wait when they heard what sounded like a propane tank pressure valve making noise. The blast went off shortly after, and firefighters were able to put out the blaze. No injuries were reported. Wow. Despite U.S. home sales seeing an all-time low in January, housing experts believe that will start to change as we approach the warmer season. Spectrum's Michael Lozano breaks down the latest on the housing market as buying and selling starts to heat back up.
Beverly Gray never expected house hunting to be.
It's a shopping thing. I think that's where all the anxiety go.
Well, so difficult.
I'll step out there and get all overwhelmed, and I have to step back and kind of relax and reassess everything.
Beverly's owned homes before, but now she'll be house hunting during a time where interest rates have seen a slight decline, sitting around 6.6%, and the median cost of a home in DFW is around $389,000.
I feel that this is going to be my last and final. I'm going to actually probably retire in another year, and I'm just looking for a good deal.
But despite the record low U.S. housing sales in January, mainly due to record winter weather, those high interest rates and the ongoing migration to Texas is leaving the state with a steep housing shortage.
Don't think we've put much of a dent in it. I think it's probably somewhere around 70 to 75,000.
Freeman says those high interest rates are also giving potential sellers cold feet, especially during economic unease, which means even less supply for the ongoing demand.
There's only one place for prices to go, and that's up. And so that's what we've seen, pretty consistent price appreciation. In fact, pretty aggressive price appreciation in the last 5 to 10 years.
The Dallas Area Habitat for Humanity guided Beverly to ensure she was ready to get back out into the housing market.
They step you all the way through, which my finances were fine, my credit was fine.
Freeman says buyers cannot expect housing to get any cheaper, adding that if Texans like Beverly find something within their means, it's best to jump on it.
But when do you hope to get a home or be in a home? In the next month.
In Dallas, Michael Lozano, Spectrum News.
The first games of March Madness are set to tip off Tuesday night. 2 of the first 4 matchups in the men's NCAA tournament include Alabama State and St. Francis vying for a shot into the bracket. And North Carolina faces San Diego State. And the first games in the women's tournament are scheduled to tip off Wednesday night. Princeton and Iowa State will battle it out on the court. And later, Southern University will face off with #1 seed UC San Diego. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News at 90 is coming up right after a short break. Stay with us.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Our journey towards improving mental health doesn't always present a clear path. Every Thursday on Your Mental Health, we listen to voices across our communities, discussing the challenges of everyday life and presenting accessible resources to guide us along the path to our well-being, providing hope and empowering choices that light the way to a healthier you.
Your Mental Health with Dr. Nicole Clark, Thursdays on Spectrum News Plus, available on all your favorite devices.
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Whether it's our stories,
the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce. We all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.